Welcome to this very special edition of the Author's Voice with KAJ, a show where we explore the stories behind the stories. Here we dive into the worlds created by authors, discover their inspirations, and ensure that you walk away enriched and inspired. And today we have with us author Wendy Gunn. She is also a confident Christian speaker and ovarian cancer survivor. And she has also started a movement to tell your story for God's glory. We'll talk all about this, but right now we'll be talking about her book, Serving from the Heart. We'll talk all about all these things. Welcome to the show, Wendy.
Thank you, Ajay. It's a privilege and honor to be here and to see you again.
You're welcome. Welcome to the show once again, Wendy. Welcome to India in this online form once again. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk about. We'll talk about your book, Serving from the Heart. That's the topic for today. We'll talk about that focus, but we'll talk about other things. But before that, let's talk about you, about your journey, your background, so that audience knows who they are listening to, especially, about being a speaker and also about your fight with ovarian cancer and surviving, and now doing everything for God's glory.
Well, I have a powerful story that God has been writing in my life, but my message is so do you. And I am an ovarian cancer survivor. Many years ago, God wanted to change me in my life. And I was going along comparing myself to others and competing and trying to take snippets of their life and this one's life and make my own story. And I was extremely obese. And one day I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And they told me I had 2 football-sized tumors inside of me, that it wasn't caught early, and that it had spread. And the first thing that God did in the many things that he did during this time was to get me into surgery in just 3 days. And in those 3 days, everyone that we knew and many that we didn't were praying. And when the surgeon went in on the Friday in May, there was only one contained tumor, still football sized. But let that sink in. Either a trained professional had seen and measured a tumor that did not exist, or God did a miracle in my body and life. And that was the beginning of many big goals achieved in my life, because the next year, in desperation to be healthier, I lost 50 pounds. And I felt that if God could do that in my life, he could do anything. And that was the first domino falling in changing me and into a leader. There is a quote in the book by William Penn that says, "No man is fit to command others until he has commanded himself." So I began a journey of learning to command myself. And Serving from the Heart, this book, and my chapter in this book comes from the perspective of you have to be first leading yourself, and how God changed me. And I learned through ovarian cancer that we're transformed. I am transformed more through trials than triumphs. So God began that work of changing me into a leader who others could follow by these trials, and then achieving big goals with his power.
Absolutely, absolutely, Wendy. So, how did this all happen? You came to God uh, after all those things that you just talked about, or God came to you, or you went to God much before that. Tell us a bit about that, because you also talk about the tell your story for God's glory about all this, so that people understand this much better.
Well, during that particular, and that was in my 40s, I had been a Christian. I had been a believer in Jesus Christ for many years. But that ovarian cancer diagnosis was, in a sense, the beginning of my life. And so God just began to weave all these big goals and to strengthen my faith that He could accomplish them. And took me from being super disorganized to organized. And when you are changing and God is doing things in your life, others notice and they say, how can I do that too? Show me. And that began my leadership of others to tell them. And at that point, I wasn't, even before the ovarian cancer, that was beginning to happen, but I was very obese. And so God wanted to change me. And so I lost 50 pounds that first year after cancer. And then, and boy, does that empower your faith when you can do something that you've not been able to do before. But that is serving from the heart is your influence. And I say, as Christians, as a believer in Jesus Christ, everyone is intended to be a servant leader. And this book is about servant leadership. And servant leadership at its core, the difference between a leader and a servant leader is that first, that servant leader has come under the authority of the ultimate sovereign God, Almighty God, in belief in Jesus Christ. And that changes everything. Then God is working through you to serve others and influence others with your life. And when I went through cancer, I realized after being, in the comparison trap, that my story was forever changed. And that God was writing a unique story, that I was uniquely created for a purpose. But so are you. Everyone who is listening to me right now, you are uniquely created for a purpose. And my passion became to communicate to you that truth and to help you fulfill your purpose. And so that is one of the reasons that I wrote this chapter in this best-selling book. And this is another goal achieved in my life, to be a number one best-selling author. And if you have breath left, God's got goals left for you to achieve. So my story, my desire, my aim is to inspire you to keep setting goals, God's goals for you, and fulfill your purpose for why He created you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what is your chapter about in this book of yours?
My chapter is about my journey, and I've shared a little bit about it, but my journey to becoming a leader and how He walked me through that you need to lead yourself first and what that means. And it goes into more depth in into my story, my ovarian cancer story, and it just really seeks to inspire and motivate you to desire to be an influence through your life on others, and to, as Jesus said, make disciples. He commanded us to make disciples. And that is leading, isn't it? That's leadership, servant leadership. And so our lives are a testimony, are a story. And my desire to start this movement, Tell Your Story for God's Glory, came out of this that you have a story. God has done so much in your life already, and He continues to be at work until the day He takes us home. And so to embrace your story, embrace who uniquely you are. Sometimes we say, well, I don't like this. I don't like that part of my story. I don't like this or that. But God doesn't waste any of it. And so to embrace and look for how He wants to use and tell your story for His glory.
Absolutely, absolutely, Wendy. So, can you, if you want, if you can read out something from your article from this book, so that people know any particular favorite part, perhaps.
Okay. Yes. Well, I will read. And this is the book, Serving from the Heart. You can see it on the screen. And it is co authored. My picture's on the back there, but I co authored this book. I'm also in the process of writing another book on email list building, which is one of the goals that God allowed me to accomplish. And many of my biggest achievements were after the age of 60. And so I encourage you that you can accomplish God's goals for you at any age. And I started my online business after 60. I lost another 50 pounds. So for a total of over 100 pounds lost after the age of 60. I grew my email list to over 12,000 with a 37% open rate in just a couple of years after the age of 60. We took our whole family, adult children included, and son-in-law on a dream trip to Italy with miles that I'd saved. And now I am a best-selling author, and I continue to set goals and achieve them. So my chapter in this book, Serving from the Heart, is called Becoming a Servant Leader, My Journey. And I'm going to read from page 58. Um, the distinction between a mere leader and a servant leader often rests upon their relationship with a higher authority, specifically with the sovereign creator, God Almighty, and their belief in His Son, Jesus Christ. This submission to divine authority is foundational. Before leading others, a servant leader first submits themselves to the sovereignty of God, acknowledging His grace and power through the sacrifice of His Son, a humbling yet empowering start to their leadership journey. In aspiring to be a true servant leader, the first person you must lead is yourself. An insightful quote from William Penn states, "No man is fit to command another that cannot command himself," underscoring the necessity of self-leadership. This form of personal discipline is not always readily embraced, but is crucial for effective leadership. In my own life, God used a personal battle with cancer to grow both my desire and capacity to lead myself. In the year following my diagnosis, I embarked on a journey to healthier living, shedding 50 pounds in the process. One domino that triggered the fall of many others towards my transformation. Through this, God instilled in me a profound sense of discipline. Discipline, though sometimes dreaded like the word cancer, is indispensable in the realm of servant leadership. Jim Rohn eloquently put it, discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. When I realized I could lose those 50 pounds through God's strength, it became evident that He could transform any area of my life. Reflecting on the words of Paul from 1 Corinthians 9:27, I was reminded of the importance of subjection and leading by example. Many potential servant leaders stumble because they lack self-discipline. failing to lead their own lives, and yielding to moral failures that stunt their potential. As Plato wisely observed, the first and best victory is to conquer self. This journey of self mastery is ongoing, as Paul alluded when he said, "Not that I have apprehended, I have not arrived." We are constantly striving toward mastery, especially while we navigate this earthly journey. And that is just one part, but I hope that you will get the book. I hope that you will read and be encouraged to embrace who uniquely you have been created to be and fulfill God's purpose for you on earth.
Absolutely, absolutely. God's purpose for you on earth, as you said, if you have got breath left, God's God's got goals left for you to
Amen.
achieve. So wonderful. So, Wendy, I want to understand in a nutshell, what are the lessons, that for readers, what is it that they can take away from this book, especially from your article?
Well, everything that I do, write, or say, I want to inspire people that God can do anything in your life. And if you're still on earth, He's still at work and He's still got things that He wants to accomplish through you and in and through your story. And to recognize that if you're going through a trial, that's not the end of the story, especially if you're going through a really big trial. I want to instill hope in this very hopeless world. I want to instill hope and motivate and inspire each person, you, to believe, to go to God and ask Him to do great things in and through you, and to show you, He says the first commandment is to love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love others as yourself. Servant leadership, we don't ignore ourselves. And I'm not into loving yourself, quote unquote. I am into God loving others through me, through you. So that's at the crux. That's the motivating message, to look at yourself and ask God to make you that leader He wants you to be, that example, and to show you where He wants to transform and change you. And to be like the little seed who wanted to be the mighty oak tree, and he was meant to be a mighty oak tree, he had to die to being a seed. He had to stop being a seed before he could become all that God had intended. And you may need to stop more than one thing in your life in order to be and embrace all that God has for you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Tell us a bit about your new book that you are writing, Wendy. That's on the email list. So that also, God will, when God wills anything, it gets done.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I hope it will be, Lord willing, coming out in the summer. It's a book based on my knowledge and experience and expertise in growing a thriving email list. And it's very relational, as all of life is. When you talk, if you don't remember anything else about email list building, when you write an email, you're writing to one person. One person opens it and reads it. And so I help you with my simple 3-step system, and that's in the book, about 3 steps to growing, having a thriving email list that is bringing in your ideal clients who can't wait to work with you every day while you sleep, automated, so you can have time back for the important things in your life, the people, so you're not missing the memorable moments that you can't get back. You can always make more money, but you can't get time back. So that's finding out who you are is at the base and foundation of that. And then who's your ideal client? And then we create an irresistibly clickable freebie. And then we find out where your ideal clients are and produce Facebook ads. And I walk you through that by the hand, how to do that. So that's all in my email list building book, and title yet to come, but Lord willing, it will be coming out this summer, 2025.
Absolutely, absolutely. There is much to learn from you about so many things about God, about obviously the email based thing will be coming on later, especially from about serving from the heart. So for all those people who want to connect with you, learn more about this, learn about getting the serving from the heart, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Well, go to yourhomeforgod.com, and if you scroll down a little ways, you will see on the left, you will see my book. And there's a link there that you can purchase it. And then if you would like a signed copy, an actual physical signed copy by me, in as you check out, you can put signed in and how you want that to be written, what the exact words name that you want to be written to. And that is my book. And I also want to offer your listeners today a free thing, that another thing I've written, created, called the Jesus Centered Journal. And that is free if you contact me at Wendy Gunn, 2 N's, at yourhomeforgod.com. And you mention the Author's Voice podcast, and then I will send that digitally out to you and get that to you free. And it is on the names of Jesus. It's a 31-day devotional with the names of Jesus, one at a time, one day at a time. And then there's questions and prompts and a place, the Greek and Hebrew and the definition of the name. And it's a wonderful thing to study and get to know Jesus better. So I offer that to you free. Wendy Gunn at yourhomeforgod.com, and go to yourhomeforgod.com to get my book, Serving from the Heart.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this edition of the Author's Voice with KJ. And if you enjoyed this conversation, do grab a copy of Wendy's book and explore more. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, Ajay.